Welcome to Tony at 12. I'm Tony LeBlanc, and today I'm in conversation with Robert McDowall. Today's topic is the possible disestablishment of the Church of England. Robert, good to see you. And
And you, Tony.
what prompted you to come up with this as an interview subject?
As you know, we were having coffee and we talked about a number of subjects. And I'm doing a lecture later this year to the Gresham Society in London on the subject of disestablishment of the Church of England.
Mhm.
And thank you very much because this is a good warm-up session for it, Tony.
We aim to please, you know
Thank you,
that.
thank you.
Well, let's first of all start off with the history of the thing,
Yeah,
because it all goes back to Henry VIII, doesn't it?
it does. Yeah, he of the six or seven wives, exactly. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he changed the rules.
He changed the rules. As some people remember from history, he wanted to divorce it was Catherine of Aragon, I think, and the Pope wouldn't let him, and he got rather annoyed about it, and he decided he would become head of the church and defender of the faith, and he appointed one or two chancellors to get this through. I think one of them he executed, but he got it through eventually, and he became defender of the faith and head of the Church of England.
What a
Uh,
wonderful way to conduct business.
yeah, yes, very, very spontaneous man. Perhaps an earlier version of Donald Trump.
Yes, I was just thinking that actually. Um, Up until that point, though, what sort of control? I mean, was the Catholic religion deemed to be the established church, or
Uh, that's right. And the uh, the Pope appointed the cardinals and the bishops and so on. And you may remember that was it Henry the Second, wasn't it, who had Thomas Becket murdered? Yeah, who will rid me of this
mm,
troublesome priest? Um, the Pope was extremely annoyed about it, and he was thrashed on the altar by some clerics.
wow,
Those were the days.
absolutely.
Yeah,
So at the time of, I mean, basically we're talking about the Reformation here, aren't we?
that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
at that time it was Catholics versus Protestants.
That that's correct. And obviously, as a result of becoming defender of the faith, he impounded a lot of the riches of the monasteries.
Mhm.
That some were dissolved, and so on. And so it helped him accumulate wealth. Um, and since then, there were other pieces of legislation that came in establishing the Common Prayer Book, so-called 39 Articles of Faith, um, and the Protestant religion, if you like, got more deeply embedded in the establishment. Save for a brief period, I suppose, when Mary was on the throne, she reverted to taking instructions from the Pope, but that was one episode. And then under Oliver Cromwell, the Church of England was sort of I use the word disestablished, but it was put into abeyance. But again, at the Restoration, when Charles II was back, the he became Charles I was back. He became Charles II. He became head of the Church of England, and over the centuries, some monarchs have been high church, some have been lower church, and so on. But the Church of England is the state religion, and I suppose you could say up till the time of what Harold Macmillan, you might say the Church of England was the Tory party at prayer.
Yeah, a lot, that's often said, isn't it? The
Yeah,
the
you
the,
wouldn't say
pro-
that now.
the Protestant side though was underway, wasn't it, before Henry VIII,
Yeah, yes, it was. Yes, it was. I mean,
Martin
obviously,
Luther, and all that stuff.
yeah, Luther. There were sort of movements in Germany, as we now know it, questioning the authority of the Pope and the way he went about it, and also the alleged corruption of the monasteries and the church and the wealth that they accumulated relative to others. So yes, it was underway elsewhere in Europe, particularly Northern Europe.
Yeah, yeah. Now you mentioned Supermac just now. I mean, up to that point, it was well respected, wasn't it, as a concept, being the established church?
That's right, because the up until well, actually up until the 70s, the it was the Prime Minister who appointed the Archbishop of Canterbury, obviously on recommendation. And there's a famous anecdote when the Archbishop Fisher was about to retire, and Macmillan was going to appoint uh, Ramsay as the next Archbishop of Canterbury, and Fisher said to Macmillan, he said he wasn't good at school, and Macmillan said, "Well, he said, you may have been his headmaster, but you're not my headmaster."
Oh, right.
He
Okay.
went ahead and
Yeah,
appointed.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. But since then, the appointment of the Archbishop of Canterbury has it's gone out to various committees now, and um, I suppose I suppose really since Callahan was did take a part in their appointments, but since then it's gone out to committees which comprise you know all stakeholders, I suppose, is the best way of describing it. And some cynics might say that's why we've perhaps not had a very illustrious group of archbishops over the last 20 or 30 years. But that's just a view.
Who makes the ultimate decision then? It's a committee that's making recommendations. Is it still the Prime
Yeah,
Minister?
it, in a token basis, yes, the Prime Minister accepts the recommendations of the committees. Really doesn't have any views these days, and obviously a lot of them are uh, uh, neither Anglicans nor are they Christians, and a number of them as well. But
Mm.
that's a separate issue.
So where does the monarchy fit into it?
Well, the king or queen is the head of state, and as such, head of the Church of England.
Mm.
And what we'll come on to talk about the church in Wales and Scotland and
Yeah,
Ireland were disestablished, but the the Church of England is still the established church, not just in England, but interesting enough in the Crown dependencies. So,
right.
so in Guernsey, Jersey, and the Isle of Man, it's the established church, which is quite curious. I suppose the only other thing is, of course, and this this creates a little jealousy among the Crown dependencies. The Isle of Man has a bishop, the Bishop of Sodor and Man, not
Right.
Sodom, Sodor and Man.
Okay.
uh, whereas in Guernsey and Jersey, there are only deaneries, which actually currently uh, have episcopal oversight, as they call it, from the Diocese of Salisbury, following recent changes.
Okay. Because it has sort of hopped around a bit in the Channel Islands, hasn't it? In terms of the diocese.
Yeah,
Diocese.
yeah, yes, it has, and we could go on for an hour about the turmoil in the in the church, but it was historically part of the Diocese of Winchester.
Yeah.
There was a there was little local difficulty in Jersey, and so then both Guernsey and Jersey came under the oversight of the Archbishop of Canterbury, but on a day-to-day basis with the Bishop of Dover. That was only temporary. And after a very expensive commission, it was collectively determined that they would come under the Diocese of Salisbury, which they've done since 2022. It
Mm.
took a little, and it was quite an expensive exercise because there had to be a lot of this is a very unusual occurrence. There a lot of legislation in Parliament on this, which I think was quite let's say quite costly. But I think the central office of the Church of England picked up the costs.
Okay. So, looking at it today, what do we mean by the disestablishment of the Church of England, Robert? What does it involve?
Very interestingly, Tony, there has been. and it won't get through Parliament. It's a sort of flag flying, but there has been a bill presented by a Liberal peer, Lord Scriven, and I'll read it out. Uh, 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 a bill to disestablish the Church of England, to make provision for the freedom of religion or belief and for connected purposes. And basically, this bill uh, seeks to establish a committee directed by the Secretary of State to go through a number of things, including the sovereign no longer holds the title of Defender of the Faith. Any rights of parishioners to marry in their local parish is removed. There's no automatic right for the official of the Church of England to solemnize marriages. That the no longer would there be the Lord Spiritual, the 25 bishops of the Church of England sitting in the House of Lords, and there will be a number of other issues, and in effect, all the powers of the Church of England would go to its General Synod, which is a mix of bishops, clergy, and laity, to determine what they do. Because currently, any material changes in the Church of England, they have to be recommended by the General Synod to Parliament and have to be passed by Acts of Parliament. On the basis that it was no longer an established religion, everything would be in the powers of the General Synod, Tony.
Is this a bit of wokeism on the part of the Liberal Party?
Well, yeah, yes, and no. I mean, the Liberals really going back to the days of Gladstone and before have always been in favour of disestablishing the church. They were behind the disestablishment of the Church of Ireland, the Protestant Church of Ireland, and also Lloyd George was behind the disestablishment of the church in Wales, and then there followed disestablishment of the Church of Scotland in the late 1920s. So yes, it's that. But I also think England is pretty well unique now in having a state religion. In most other jurisdictions, the state and the church are separate entities, and the church doesn't interfere in the state, and vice versa. I think the other thing that has driven this is dare I say, the current controversy in the Church of England. Clearly, the senior hierarchy in the Church of England is in something of a turmoil at the moment.
Yes,
Almost
yeah, they're lining up, and one that we didn't mention when we compiled the list was the Bishop of Liverpool, who
that's
appears
right.
to be in hot water with the other two.
Yes, I mean the bishops are falling like chess pieces at the moment, Tony, and the Church of England has really a lot to do to re-establish any credibility and authority, and I think it's not going to happen at the moment because a bill like this would require a lot of legislative time. You have to peel back a lot of legislation, really going back to the days of Henry VIII, and the government's got, how should I put it, bigger priorities than disestablishing the Church of England.
Yeah.
But I think it's a indication of the future, and I think this bill is a kite flying exercise. It has no chance of passing or of debate, but it's a sign of the times in which we live.
So it's a marker. How far did it get? Was it actually? Did it have a reading in the Commons?
Yes, it had a reading. Yes, well, in the House of Lords. Curiously enough, this one came from the House of Lords. And
Okay.
It was by a Lord Scriven, who's a peer, fairly obscure. So it had a reading. It isn't going anywhere. It's flying a kite in one sense, but I generally think it's a sign of the times. I think the other thing is, if we go back, I don't think any legislature would want to come into conflict with the monarch on such a step. so for example, the old Queen would have been dead set against disestablishment. I think um, Charles is sort of ambivalent about it, but I I would certainly see this coming forward under what should we call him? William the Fifth, I suppose we'd
Mm,
call him
yeah, yeah.
the next monarch. And so this is not something designed to have conflict with the monarch. It would only go forward if it had the broad agreement of the monarch. And I think the next monarch will candidly take it in that direction, Tony.
The present king, though, was has been reported on several occasions as saying that he was defender of faith, plural.
Well, that's right. That's actually. I mean, he may feel that personally, but he is not legally a
No,
defender of faith.
no.
He's only a defender of the Church of England. But maybe he's got a touch of wokeism. I don't know.
Of course, France and other countries are totally secular, aren't they?
They they are indeed. As you may know, in France, you have to get married at the town hall, and then you can go and have a church service subsequently
Yeah,
if you wish to.
yeah.
And that's the case in in most countries in Europe. But yes, I think the England is unique i- in that sense. I mean, there is a broader Anglican church, if you like. There's an Anglican church in Canada, in the United States, Bermuda, places like that, and they sort of attach themselves theologically, if you like, to the broad teachings of the Church of England, but they are essentially separate, independent church organizations, as they are indeed in Africa,
Mm.
because there's some quite uh, critical issues where there's strong disagreement between what I call the Anglican churches in Africa and the Church of England, particularly on things like ordination of women priests,
Yeah.
um, gay marriage, and so on. So they have the African churches are very conservative with a small c compared with with the Church of England.
Do you think that the high profile of Archbishop Welby has created a problem here, in terms of the Lord Scrivener sort of saying, well, I'm going to have a go at you, sunshine? Um,
Well, 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 I think so because I mean, on this particular safeguarding and related issues, clearly his judgment has been at fault. A lot of things have been, I wouldn't say covered up, but not addressed in a transparent way. And it's and these are coming out in different reports. It's he has stood down. Clearly, the Archbishop of York, St. Cottrell, has been caught in some of the slipstream of this in terms of actions he did or did not take in the past. The Bishop of Liverpool down. So the hierarchy is very frail at the moment, and if there isn't a strong hierarchy, I generally believe that in the future, not in the next 4 or 5 years, but perhaps beyond that, then I think more power will devolve to the parish, rather like the Congregationalist religion, which forget they have a much more fundamentalist ritual, but where there's much more power in the parish than in the hierarchy,
yeah.
which I think could cause quite a lot of unease.
Mm. It's certainly an interesting situation from that point of view.
Yeah.
How do you sort of look at it from the point of view that congregations are reducing substantially in England? Is that another factor?
Yeah, well, it certainly is. I mean, I dug out a few statistics. So, for example, at in 1900, uh, uh, no, sorry, 1930. That's it. 10.8 million attended some religious organization.
Yeah,
Um, that's now gone down went down to 5.5 million by 2010, and it's gone down much further to lower than 5% now. Clearly, things like COVID didn't help. And on an average Sunday, you get 600,000 people attending church services. It will go up to over 1 million or to 1.5 million at Easter and
Yeah,
Christmas, those sort
yeah.
of things. But it's a very low percentage, and even on the census these days, less than half the population say they are Christian in any sense. Um, and it really is a sign of the times. The the UK is becoming much more secular.
Mm.
Um, and funny enough, it's more pronounced in Scotland than it is in England. Curiously enough, I don't whether they drink too much whiskey on a Saturday night and can't get up for church.
Well,
I don't know.
we'll have
Don't
to
you?
we've got to put him into it, haven't we? We'll have to ask Mr. McPherson about that particular issue.
Yeah,
No doubt he will
you will
send us
indeed.
a reply. Just for
Uh,
those that don't know, it's
so,
Ali McPherson's a good fan of the show. And whenever Robert's on, he's usually got something to say. So we look forward to hearing from you, Alistair, on that one. No doubt about that. That stat that you gave me just now, was that total worshippers,
yeah,
including Catholics and nonconformists and everybody
yes,
else? It
absolutely.
wasn't just the Church of England.
Yes, absolutely.
In which
No, no,
case,
no, absolutely.
it's a worry, isn't it? Yeah.
It's a worry. It's a worry. It's and I mean, we can theologically debate whether it makes people better people going to church or not, but religion, active practicing religion it has declined.
Mm.
And the whole we could spend a program talking about why, but
Yeah.
it has declined.
How does it figure with
You
other countries, though? I mean, I know it's strong in
uh,
Africa, but what about other European
well,
countries? Is it on the decline?
in other Europe, yes. I mean, in strong Roman Catholic countries like France and Italy, it's
Mm.
very much declined. And also, it's had an accelerated decline in Spain and Portugal. Obviously, they came under dictators, if you like, up till the
Mm.
1970, and but both who espoused the Roman Catholicism, or obviously it wasn't state religion, but they have been through a lot of change over the last 30 years, and that also has stimulated a decline in active religious participation, Tony.
And it's the younger generation that aren't attending church, isn't it? I mean,
Uh,
once our lot die
that
off,
That's right. That's right. I mean, even locally in the Channel Islands, it's uh, not many young people go to services. Uh, I don't think anyone. There may still be one or two Sunday schools, but those sort of services have declined uh, and lapsed. So and I think the this uh, drive to disestablishment arises through those factors, Tony.
mm, mm. How do you see, assuming it was disestablished, okay,
Yeah,
10, 20 years time or whatever, how do you
yeah.
see it progressing from that point as a church?
Well, I mean, the Church of England still will exist as a body, probably a smaller body. It will be governed by its bishops, its archbishops, but they will no longer have seats in the House of Lords. Um, the General Synod will deal with the administration, changing any rules and regulations. Um, it'll be very interesting further afield. So, for example, um, if the Church of England is disestablished, what will happen in the Channel Islands? I
Yeah,
assume.
yeah.
I mean, people will go on in the churches practicing, I suppose, religion, but it will pose a bit of a dilemma, I think, to the crown dependencies in terms of relationship in the future with the monarch.
Do you
Um,
do you think, for example, that the non-conformist element should integrate with the Church of England? You
well,
know,
well,
strength and all the rest of it.
that's it. There is a convention with the Methodists signed in 2004, whereby, for example, Methodist ministers can, with different consents, officiate in Church of England services
Hmm.
and vice versa. And in fact, indeed, we did have it when Jan and Tony Fowler
Yeah.
were here. The Methodist minister would stand in their absence, and vice versa. Um, but obviously, Methodism is at the low end of the Church of England, if you like. I can't see that happening where there's a higher church or Anglo-Catholic sort of approach.
Hmm.
But no, there's cordiality with the Methodists, and that convention has lasted since 2004 and still is in place, and I suspect will continue, Tony.
Yeah. So that's an interesting situation, but it does concern me that not only could the church be disestablished, but eventually, because of the fact there's no congregation, the younger generation don't recognise it in the way that we did.
Yeah.
The it becomes pointless almost.
Well, indeed, and I mean, on a very practical issue, as you may know, the churches in the Channel belong to the
Hmm.
parishes. The the church, if you like, has a free rental of it, but so physically they belong to the parishes, and I suppose at the end of the day, the keys would be handed back
Yeah.
to the parishes to do with it. Now, you have had places in England, and I come from Norfolk, where a lot of the churches have been shut. Some have been deconsecrated and used for other purposes.
Hmm.
And I suspect it won't come in all instances, but I suspect one could have more of that over the next 10 to 20 years, where effectively they're shut, deconsecrated, and used for other purposes.
Yeah.
Some people may say that bleak, but I think that is quite a realistic proposition, I'm afraid.
And we're already seeing it, aren't we, in Guernsey with some of the non-conformist churches that are suddenly redeveloped into flats, keeping the
Yeah,
exterior as it is, but putting flats in
that's
inside. Yeah, yeah.
that's correct, because they don't have they no longer have a religious purpose, I'm afraid. It's
Or a congregation,
or a congregation.
as
Exactly.
we've seen with the Salvation Army on Alderney.
Well,
That.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, it'll be in different sort of Christianity sect. That's an indication of the way things are going, I'm afraid.
Mm, mm, mm. So, looking in the crystal ball, it's not too optimistic, is it, for the
It
future?
it it isn't, and I think I think the Church of England does need to seriously think about its future and future direction, and that might be one of the ways of the hierarchy re-establishing the credibility,
Yeah.
which they definitely need to do.
Mm.
A lot of congregations are puzzled and perplexed, I suppose, about the issues that are coming out now, and quite disturbed some of them.
When do they have to make a decision about Canterbury?
Uh, there is no time limit, curiously enough. I mean, there are two bishoprics which have been vacant for a year to 18 months. One of them is quite a famous Ely, and
Mm.
the, uh, the the group who appoint them are at loggerheads because there is a lot of I use the word internal conflict over things like women priests, gay marriage, and other related things, and so there's not a great unity and harmony at the moment, which again I think makes it extremely difficult.
Given the situation of the Archbishop of York, do you see him making it to Canterbury or
I don't because of what
scandal?
is
Yeah,
scandal
yeah,
surrounding him. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to stand down as Archbishop of York, but I think that someone will be ultimately selected who has been totally free from any implications of
mm,
maladministration in
mm,
these areas.
mm, mm.
I think that's absolutely essential in the new leader of the Church of England, whoever
Yeah,
that may be.
yeah. So I guess, we've got to watch this space as to how it all pans out. But it's going to be, if it does happen, and like you, I think it will eventually happen. It's going to be a big revolution, isn't it, in
It,
terms
it,
of
it,
losing
it,
their position in the House of Lords and everything
yeah,
else. Yeah,
that's right. So I think everyone should, yeah, whatever their religious faith or not, should
yeah,
look at the broader constitutional and other uh, implications of disestablishment of the
yeah,
Church of England.
yeah.
'Cause it will have wider implications than beyond worship and ritual.
Fascinating subject. Thank you very much
Yeah,
for sparing me some time, and
pleasure.
I hope it's a good warm up for the main act.
Yeah. So I mean, the lecture will be more formal than our discussion, but it will be certainly covering these themes.
Yeah,
And as I say,
yeah,
it is a topic that is being discussed quite actively at the moment, Tony.
yeah, yeah. Robert, so thanks as ever for appearing on the show, and we'll
Pleasure.
see you later in the year,
Yeah,
quarter two. You normally do one a quarter, don't you? So we'll
absolutely.
find
Yeah.
we'll find something controversial to come up for that, I'm sure.
All
Anyway,
right. Many
many
thanks, Tony.
thanks. Cheers for
Take care.
now.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.